Hey you guys, this is Rafael from Relics.com. Hope you're all doing well. Hope everybody's staying healthy. Hope you're staying away from each other. Hope you're wearing your mask when you get the opportunity because it's not that hard and it might help somebody out. Today we're going to talk about something from the Civil War that was a very important piece. It's the sidearm that was made for the Union by the Remington Arms Company. Across the top of this full-length 8-inch barrel, it'll have the stamp like this. It'll have new model, which just they were trying to, like today, every time they rolled out something new, it was new and improved, and that was the new model Remington Army. And Army, like we've talked about before, is a 44 caliber. The Navy was 36, Army was 44. This was actually the last of the 44 caliber revolvers that Remington would make. They start serial numbering them. Serial numbers are important on a gun like this that they made a lot of. They made about 122,000 of these. So when you have a gun like a Colt and a Remington where they made tens of thousands, it's important to a collector that all the serial numbers match. Because they didn't always. If something went wrong on it, they got them a replacement part so they could keep using it. It doesn't kill it, but it does affect the value. These, the serial numbers will show up under the barrel. They will show up under the grips. A lot of times they'll show up stamped into the grips, or sometimes you'll see them with them handwritten in the grips, a lot of times in pencil, nice and simple. On the some of the revolvers, they will have serial numbers on the back of the cylinder. Not always with these, but sometimes. What's interesting about these, they start serial numbering these as a continuation from the 1861 Army contract. And those numbers will start about 15,000. So even though they made only 122,000, you'll see some of them on up into the 140s. They made these guns from 1863 to 1865. During the war, it was Colt's major competitor. Remington, and they actually made a lot better gun, in my opinion. With a Colt, you have to take the entire barrel off. And with these, you don't have to do that. It's nice and simple. I haven't done this one yet, so let's just see if it'll work. You slide the cylinder pin forward, and if everything goes according to plan, that's why you never do things live for the first time. There we go. And the cylinder comes out. And this one, let's check it and see. No serial number on the back of the frame, back of the cylinder, which is not uncommon for these because, and that's the reason we're talking about this one. This one is one of the rare state contracts. During the war, they might have made 122,000 of them, but they only sent 106,000 of those to the U.S. government. And those show up with inspector marks, like we've talked about. They'll have the cartouches, they'll have the sub-inspector marks on the metal. Those are the ones that went straight to the U.S. government. They sold 16,000 of them commercially. If some had a little blemish that the government wouldn't accept, they weren't going to waste that gun. They sold it to a civilian. Civilian could have carried it into the war. It just means that it did not go to the government. This one is the third option, and it's actually the rarest option. Of the 122,000 of them, they say that 1,000 of them were bought by the state of New Jersey. Now, how do we know that? One thing is they do not have those sub-inspector initials. They do not have the cartouches on the grips. They have simple little stamps. And on the stamps, I've checked this gun. It's empty. I never turn a gun around it myself. I always tell you guys to be careful unless it's checked, and I always treat it like it's armed because it is a weapon. Just because it's 150 years old doesn't mean it couldn't be loaded and fired. So treat it with respect. These guns will have the stamp on the frame like that, just simple NJ, and they'll have it on the barrel as well, just a simple NJ, going for the state of New Jersey, a Jersey boy's gun. They, excuse me, sinuses are killing me this morning. They went to New Jersey. They won't have those other markings. 1,000 of them were done, and they'll actually show up a couple of ways. This one's the little bitty NJ. Some of them will have a very large NJ. And how do we know an early Remington from a late Remington? That's the order line, gotta go, be right back. Sorry about that, but like I tell you every time, it's just me here in the office. I filed my taxes as owner / janitor because I sweep the floors, I write up the descriptions, I do the photographs, I do the photography, I do the shipping, I answer the phone lines, and that's how I make my living and feed my family. So sorry about that, but we're back at it again. I couldn't tell you to save my life where we're at, so we'll talk a little bit more about the gun. Oh, I remember. How do we tell an early Remington Army from a late production Remington Army? And by late, I don't mean after the war. I just mean the earliest models have a front sight like this, and it just screws in. That's the early type. The later ones will have a silver cone sight. So that lets us know that this one was a state purchase, an earlier production. And the guns themselves are factory blued. And Remington blue is a little different than Colt blue because it tends to flake more than just wear. If you notice, this one has a couple of little patches where the blue has flaked off, and that just happens with a Remington. But it's a beautiful, beautiful gun. It's got tons of that original blue. The hammer on these are case hardened, and that just gives you a little bit different coloration than the standard bluing. Two-piece walnut wood grips. They use some beautiful wood for these Remington revolvers. As you can see, this one, it's just a pretty gun all the way around. The importance of this gun is that it did go to Jersey. And hi, my friends in New Jersey. I'm going to make a few New Jersey jokes just because everybody else does. And every time I hear anybody in New Jersey, they always make fun of my accent. So I'm going to talk about y'all. So those Jersey boys get these guns. Most of them stayed home, which is why they're so pretty when you see them. Most of them are in really good shape, those New Jersey inspected ones. And you expect that out of a gun that didn't see a lot of service. I know some of you guys fought hard, but anyway, I digress. Great gun. It's on ShilohRelics.com right now. You can go in there, and even if you're not going to buy it, read the descriptions, look at the pictures, learn, because with the historical collecting, unless you see it, unless you soak it in, and unless you get to read those descriptions, it's not an easy thing to learn. It's a hard thing to learn. And I was lucky enough, I told you guys last episode that I was going to tell you one of the stories about my starting and how you have to be around it. So I was in Middle Tennessee State University, started metal detecting, and I met Larry Hicklin at yesteryear Relics, Middle Tennessee Relics on the website nowadays. And I would go in and shop every time I got a chance to. I would go in there and just try to learn and be around it. And he was nice enough. He put up with me, and he would tell me things, and I tried to soak them in and learn. And I'm in there one day, and he's packing up to go to a show, and I said, well, where are you going? He said, I'm going to the Richmond show. And jokingly in the South, sometimes I'll say, well, you ought to go with me, meaning I'm going, and I hope you have a good time. But he said, you ought to go with me. So I said, well, what time are we leaving? And his eyes got about that big, and he said, well, we're going to leave real early in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I'll be here. So I skipped my tests on that Friday. We hopped in the little blue car he had and drove to Virginia. And as we're going up there, I'm sure he's thinking, God, this is going to be a long trip. Get up there, and I had one little tray of relics. It was one of the wooden cases, that by that. And I had some bullets, and I had a few buttons and just things that I had bought. My first U.S. buckle was $48, and he let me make 3 payments on it because he knew I didn't have $48. I get up there. I find a couple of real cool things for him to buy, so he makes money. He lets me put my little tray out. By the time I left, I had 2 trays. I had money in my pocket. I think I left with $40 or $50 to my name. And when I left, I had 2 trays and more money than I left with. And I was like, this is for me. I love this. Because I was getting to be around it. And I saw the cool things, and I helped him buy them. And it's such a great hobby. I love it. And so many people love it too, because if you appreciate the history, and we don't know who carried this gun. We don't know. But when you don't know, you can imagine anybody carried it. those guys from New Jersey that fought so hard at Gettysburg and those other battles, it could have been in their hands, and it could have been anywhere. So I say all that to say, take time to help those young people that are wanting to get into the collecting of it, or even if they don't want to collect it, that are interested in the history. Because if Larry hadn't took the time to help me and to take me places and show me things about it, I wouldn't be here today. And I've had a hell of a life. I've enjoyed my life. There've been hard spots, but I've enjoyed it so much. So be that positive influence on some young person that collects. I know some of the guys have told me that the kids watch the videos with them. Hope you guys are well. Thank you for watching. And just remember, it's a great hobby. Don't be afraid to share it. Share these links, share them, tell people about them, because I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have more historians before the day's over. Love you guys, and I'll catch you next time.